This is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 61 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today our guest is Trent Shelton, and we're going to be talking all about the relationship that can make or break your brand. And when thinking about what I should title this podcast episode, I had a list of other options because there were just so many things that we really touched on. But I think the biggest theme for me, and from hearing Trent talk about his life and his story, was just how much his purpose and his vision and seeing it manifested really depended upon him getting to know himself and him working on himself, which is why the relationship that can make or break your brand is the one that you have with yourself. So that's going to be what we really center on in this episode. So Trent, if you guys don't know, is a former NFL wide receiver who's currently the founder and president of a Christian-based nonprofit organization, RehabTime. He also is a global life coach and encourages people to live, be, and enhance their life in all situations. There's so many things that we touch on in this episode, such as how Trent lost himself in his early days as an NFL player. We also talk about the moment that Trent realized he could make a career from following his purpose. Trent discusses how you can stop feeling sorry for yourself, the power of repetition and visualization, how to make sure your circle is aligned. Trent also gives us a little behind the scenes into how he was able to create viral videos. So he shares his 3-part formula that he uses to create videos that inspires his audience, and you can use the same. So I really hope that you enjoy listening to Trent share his story, because there's just so much to learn from this dream driving episode. So if you haven't already, make sure that you are subscribed to us. If you're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever, hit that subscribe button to make sure you get our weekly updates. If you want today's show notes, and you guys, there's so many tweetables, I don't even know if I can post them all on social. Go to our show notes page, which is dreamsanddrive.com, and click on episode 61. And there are so many things that you can share, write down, even print out the page if you want some inspiration. I definitely recommend that you all do that. And lastly, if you want to join our Dreams and Drive community, all you have to do is go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. Wait, one more thing. If you have not followed us on social, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Dreams and Drive. So I hope that you guys enjoy this one. I know you will, and I'm excited to hear what you think. Hi, Trent. Thank you so much for being a guest on this episode of Dreams and Drive.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and thanks again for sharing your platform with me.
I'm excited to chat with you. It's so funny. You know how you're watching someone on Facebook and you just I see you all the time on social media. So I was so surprised when I got that email, pitching your story. And I'm like, wow, it's so funny how when you put things into the universe, how they conspire to make things happen. Because I literally was watching your video the same day that I got that email. So
that's crazy.
I know. So I love to start off our interviews with the question, what inspired you as a child? If you think back to Trent as an 8-year-old, how would you describe yourself?
My inspiration was just to succeed, honestly. My family, I have 2 older brothers. They always inspired me. Being the youngest out of 3, being the baby boy, you always want to grow up to be like your brothers. And, that was pretty much my inspiration. I saw them succeeding in sports, in school, and just in life in general. So, I wanted to make them proud of me, make my family proud of me. So growing up, it was all about my family. They were the drive behind me, with sports and just being a good student and everything else in life.
And you knew from a young age that you wanted to go to the NFL, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Since I can probably remember, I wanted to be a professional athlete since maybe 3 years old.
Oh my gosh. So did you kind of were you that kid who was in the NFL, or not NFL, football programs, the AAU? I don't know if AAU does football, but all those after school football leagues and the summer football leagues, all that stuff?
Yeah, I grew up in New Orleans pretty much from till I got to 7th grade. And so I lived across from a Saints player. my uncle, he's still coaching the NFL. So my brothers, it was all around me. And so, yeah, every chance I got, that's all I knew growing up was sports.
So would you say that you were a very disciplined child then? Because I feel like a lot of people that I know who were really intense and really into sports, is I ran track, but I was like the wannabe track player. Like I was never really that good, but I loved it. But you know how the people who were actually really good, the kids that actually would practice on their own and that kind of stuff. Like, would you say that you were very disciplined even as a child?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you say, if you're trying to make it to I always wanted to be the best, and just really, I started off me wanting to be better than my brothers and beat my brothers. So I did whatever it took to beat them. And of course, until I got maybe to high school, they would always still beat me. But that was my driving force. I wanted to be able to beat my brothers in basketball or football. I'd be faster than them. So I always, watched them, and then I watched everybody else, and I was just an observer. And then, I always worked on my craft until it got me to the NFL or to college or even, playing at a high school level.
All right, so let's fast forward to college. You went to Baylor University. What was it like when you knew that you had NFL prospects? Like you knew that it was a possibility that you would go into the NFL. Like what was that feeling like for you?
It was surreal. I mean, you had this dream your whole life. And you always knew that you could get there, but, it still seemed like a dream, so for it to actually be coming true and for it to be in the grasp of your hands, it's an incredible feeling. It shows that hard work really does pay off. And, I was just excited just to get the opportunity to be able to live out my dreams and make that dream an actual reality. So
you were drafted, or were you part of the NFL drafts? Like, how did that whole process work?
Yeah, see, I was supposed to be drafted as far as projection wise, and I didn't get drafted. And so that was kind of a hard blow to take. But I got undrafted. I was undrafted, and I went to the Indianapolis Colts. I got advice from my uncle. I mean, he's been an NFL coach for 17 years, and he wanted me to go to Indianapolis under Coach Dungy because he knew Coach Dungy, he knew the man he was, just being in the winning program. So I signed with the Colts immediately after the draft. I mean, my phone was ringing crazy. As soon as the draft was over, it was ringing off the hook, and I was having two phones and two different people on the. It was crazy, But I made the decision, and I went with Indianapolis.
All right, so let's talk about that. I would say, let's say you were actually putting your dreams in drive. This dream of yours to be in the NFL actually happened.
Yeah.
What was the reality like once you actually achieved it?
To be accurate, I mean, it was great, but it's like, I don't know, once I got there, I guess you ever just you paint this picture of something that is just so incredible, and once you get there, you find out that it's like super irregular. Once you get over all the hoopla and hype, it's just football. It's just football. You get to see Peyton Manning, and you realize that he's just a human. All these people you looked up to growing up, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, and you realize that they're just like you, and so it kind of takes away from the big hoopla around it. I guess that's the best word I can say it, and it just becomes regular. It just becomes just like Pee Wee, just like high school, just like college. It's you're playing against another man across from you. You have teammates, and it's 100 yards, and you're just playing the game.
Did you experience any setbacks that first year that you were with the Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, I experienced a lot of setbacks. I got cut. I got cut a few times when I was in Indianapolis. I had, my preseason was the best in the NFL at receiver, so I just knew I was going to make the team. They ended up cutting me but signing me to the practice squad. And, 2 weeks into me being signed with the practice squad, I got my apartment because I just knew they loved me there. And they brought me in and they cut me. And so I drove all the way back from Indy to Texas. I just bought a new truck. And as soon as I get back to Texas, like maybe a few days after I'm in Texas, they called me back to bring me back up there. So that's when that process started of me understanding the business side of the NFL. And it was really taxing and draining on my life.
And during this time, I know, I've read about your story. During this time, you were talking about that you also developed, habits that may not have been the most conducive to your success, right? Like, were you finding yourself in, a new world and trying new things? Sure.
Yeah, I lost myself in the lifestyle, just what was around me. I lost myself in, girls, clubs, alcohol. smoking, all those things. I lost myself in that environment. And, it was really taking a toll over my life because what I was doing was I was trying to act like I made it, even though when I still had work to do. I was being influenced by those around me. I was being influenced by what people were thinking of me as far as who I should be. So I had to put up this front to make people believe that I was successful or I have money or I have this and that. And I was living for other people instead of being who I truly was created to be.
That's deep, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people, especially when you have like a dream, like let's say for instance, you wanted to be like a singer, right? You want to be the next Usher, and you basically sacrifice your whole life, you practice your whole life to get to the point, and when you finally become Usher, it's a totally different reality than what you thought. Like, how did you process the changes that you were going through, and like, did you ever sit down to yourself and just say, wow, like, is this really for me?
Yeah, I did. I became angry with God, with my faith, just for the simple fact of, what was going on in my life. I was getting cut. I was getting released. It was embarrassing, just to be honest with you. I mean, that's in the paper. You come back home and people ask you, aren't you, it's season, like it's September, what you doing do home? And so I would lock myself in the house. I wouldn't go anywhere. And I started to just question, like, why did I have to come this far? I could have stopped in high school and I could have been, pursuing a different career with my life. And I just started to doubt myself. I started to doubt everything about me, my confidence, and I dug myself into a depression. So when I talk about that, with RehabTime, it's very true and familiar with me. Not to even honestly want to live anymore. I wouldn't say I was close to taking suicide, but I wouldn't mind. I feel like my life was worthless at that point, so I just started to live carefree.
And you know what? I like that you bring that up, because I feel like a lot of us are. I had a guest one time that talked about where there are a lot of people who are just becoming like functioning depressed people, and we don't even realize we're in it. When you were in that state, did you realize that this was a form of depression that your life needed to change?
Not at first. I didn't. I was so lost in what was around me. It was basically the things I was involved in my life around was taking my conscience away. And so, like, I wasn't thinking anything I was doing was wrong or anything like that. I just felt it was life. This is how I deal with it. But as I started to move on with my career, with different teams, I started to realize that I was really in a depression. Once I realized that I didn't want to go anywhere and I was just sitting in my mom's room and, didn't want to leave that room, I realized that I had a problem at that point.
So what did you do next?
Well, just to be real, I told myself these words, and I made a video about this, but I literally told myself these words, you got to sink or you can swim. And I just looked myself in the mirror and I say, you know what, the world is going on without you. People might call and check on you here and there. And I told myself, do you want to live like this the rest of your life? If you don't, make a decision. If you do, just stay here and do nothing with your life. And at that point, I realized that I had to do something. I had to do something. Whatever it was, I just had to do something to move and get out and just go back to being who I knew God created me to be. And so those videos that you see, that was a good starting point for me getting out of my depression.
And during this time, I guess I just want to make sure I have the timeline right for people who may also know your story. Your son was born, right? That was another defining point. Was this during the time that you were depressed as well?
Yeah, my son was born in 2008. And yeah, it was out of wedlock. Now she's my wife, so I can say that now. But yes, we had our son out of wedlock at that point, and it was just tough because I didn't know what was going on. I was, and just to be real with you, I was disappointed at that time because it wasn't planned. And those are the moments that I told myself when my son was born, when I say, I don't want him to grow up to be like me. How could I ever not, want to be a part of his life, and at that moment, I knew I had to make a change. I knew I had to be a leader because my son was going to follow my footsteps regardless. And I wanted to show him Dad's not perfect, but Dad is a survivor and Dad can persevere. And I want to show my son and show my kids that now, whatever I do, that, life isn't going to be perfect, but you can always push through it and make it better.
So let's fast forward to like the first video that you put up online. What made you put that video up, and what were your expectations post video? Like, did you ever think that it would become what the Trent Shelton brand that you are today?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, when I first put my video, I was dibbling dabbling with social, with like Ustream and things like that. And I was, I used to love music too. I used to rap a little bit, so I would go in there and do stuff like that. But once I got to the point of motivation in the videos, that first video, I think it was called "Free Yourself," if I'm not mistaken. It was to me. It was for me. It was me putting it out there to be my accountability. I didn't think anybody would watch it. I really didn't care if anybody watched it. It was just me getting my pain off my heart, and so I didn't expect it to be what it is today. It started from a pure, authentic place of me just wanting to help myself. And that's the only way I knew how to do it.
Wow. So you were kind of just like, how some people just talk to themselves in the mirror. You were just talking into the camera and just posting these videos online.
Yep. And I started to realize little by little that other people are being helped by this. Like my pain was starting to be other people's strength. Our people could relate. Our people would, send me encouragement. And then I started to realize like, wait, like other people are going through a struggle too. Like other people are going through this too. And it made my pain not as special. And I think sometimes it happens in life is that we think we're the only one going through it, and not to take away from anybody's struggle, but there's people out there that have the same struggle as you or a worse struggle or just going through a struggle. And I realized that and I said, you know what? I need to stop feeling sorry for myself. And that really opened me up to bettering my life.
So when did you decide that, wow, like I could make something of this? 'Cause I know you also have your nonprofit RehabTime, right?
Yeah. Yep. Even with RehabTime, the word rehab now stands for renewing every heart and body. But when RehabTime started, I never wanted to start an organization. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to start this organization, call it RehabTime. RehabTime started was when I was going to my last year professionally. And I kind of knew football was over, but it was kind of my last straw. It was with the Washington Redskins. And I said, well, this is my last attempt to make a team.
What year was this?
This is 2009.
Okay.
And I just started telling myself it's rehab time. And rehab time for me meant going to the gym, getting everything toxic out of my life, growing closer to God. So that was just like my reminder that, okay, it's time to get in gear. And so I would tell myself, so rehab time was me every night going to the gym, getting to my word, reading books. That's what rehab time was. And so as I started making these videos later on, I started saying that, it's rehab time, or I started saying, hey, I'm about to go get my rehab time in. And that kind of grew into what it grew into today. So it wasn't no plan to have an organization from it.
So did you ever, in those early days, were you ever thinking about beyond rehab time, were you ever thinking about how to monetize your brand? So a lot of people listening in, they may have their own videos. They may have their own inspirational brands that they're trying to build. When did you start realizing that this could be a career and a business for you?
Definitely not at first. It wasn't my focus at first. I guess when you can start to say, when I realized that this was my purpose, I will go into that story, but I was invited to a speaking engagement, and I was still playing arena football. And to make a long story short, I didn't want to do it. I went out there as 5,000 kids. I mean, if you ever spoken in front of kids, you know why I didn't want to do it.
How old were they?
They were probably teenagers,
Okay.
So it's a very tough
you gotta make sure you capture their attention, because teenagers, they'll give you the stink eye real quick. Like, oh my God, he's so boring.
Exactly. But, I realized, I was up there for 5 minutes. It seemed like 5 hours, but those kids were captivated. Those kids they were just looking and just listening. And even when I got off the stage, my friend was like, man, like you killed that. Like, do you see how those kids, and after they came up to me. And so at that point, I called my coach in arena and said, I'm through. And when I tell people this, it's crazy because that was my way of providing for my family. Speaking wasn't paying me at that time. I wasn't getting paid to speak. I didn't have any books out. I was just basically training people, hearing their kids and adults in football. And so I told my coach I wasn't coming. And then I made that decision. As soon as I told my coach I wasn't coming, maybe the next few weeks, those videos that you see, like you're perfect for art that's meant to love, your circle, started to go viral. And that started to open up the door for me to speak, and people invited me to speak and things like that. So what I would tell people is that, first of all, it's nothing wrong with making money for your brand, because you need money to survive. You're an entrepreneur, but don't make money your everything, because if you don't get it, you might think it's the wrong thing for you. Like, I wasn't getting paid to speak at first. So if I was worried about money, I would think, well, this isn't for me. But I was focused on my purpose. I was focused on my vision, and that made room for me to live this for my life. I always say, don't chase money, dedication pays. So if you're dedicated, trust me, it will be a way where you can live off your purpose and off your vision. And so, yeah, sorry if I'm rambling a little bit.
Oh, no, I don't think that was a ramble at all. And I think also, I know that you are, you're a man of God and your faith is very strong. So do you also feel like having that faith that that it was going to work out also helped you take that leap, that jump?
Yeah, big time. I mean, that's what faith is. Faith is believing. I always say believing the odds are beatable, even when the odds say it's impossible. It's about going to attack something it's about believing the door is going to open that's not even there. And so when I let go of football, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I just knew in my heart this is what I was supposed to do. And when I let go, God provided. He provided. And I've been doing this. I mean, I was like 2011. In those 2010, 2011, around that time. So I've been doing that for 6 rehab time, really like 9 years. And so I tell people, it'll get to a point, but you have to be consistent. You have to put in the work. You have to be dedicated. It takes more than just prayer. If you really believe in what you pray for, then you're gonna work in that manner. If you really believe in your dreams, you're gonna work in that manner. So you have to dedicate it and make it your life. And sometimes you got to step out on faith, where really all the time you got to step out on faith and say, I'm going to trust God, or I'm going to trust, my dream, my vision, and I'm going to make it happen. And so when I cut that bridge off of me going back to football, I had no choice but to learn how to be successful.
I love that. That's a good segue, because I want to ask you, like, that first year, what did making it happen mean to Trent? Like, what were like the actual tangible things that you really had to learn about, what it meant to really live in your purpose full time?
Well, for one, I think the main thing for me was to be a reflection of everything I talked about. I always say, live it, breathe it, be it. And that was a model for myself. Like, I want to make sure that I was a reflection of rehab time. I always tell myself, if I couldn't say one word, what would my life represent? Would people see that, I'm a man that goes hard? Would people see I'm a man of faith? Would people see that I'm a man that will never quit? Would people see I'm a man that loves to help people? And so I really focused on action. I really focused on action, and I also focused on creating opportunity. Because sometimes, the opportunity doesn't come to you. And a lot of people spend their whole life waiting for somebody to believe in them, for somebody to give something to them, for somebody to open a door for them. Sometimes you got to go and create the door yourself. If God told you to do it, if it's on your heart to do it, sometimes you just got to go out there and make it happen. And that's what I did with me. So I started making more videos. I started sharing videos and tagging people. I started, blogging. I started writing my own books. I started doing all these things myself. Anywhere I could put inspiration, and I started going to elementary schools for free. I would go speak outside places, like wherever there was an ear. I said, you know what? I'm going to spread my message. And I dedicated my life to my mission and my vision. It wasn't an on and off switch. I told myself, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it full time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make this all of me. It's not going to be that. So to even entrepreneurs out there, it has to be pretty much your life. I'm not saying you got to quit your job today, whatever like that, but you need to believe in it so much that it becomes contagious to other people.
Do you think that in the beginning your level of confidence in your purpose was high? And I say that because I feel like sometimes a lot of people, when in the beginning, they may have that little feeling knowing that, okay, I know I could do it, but their lack of confidence is what hinders them from really moving forward. So what was your confidence level like in those beginning days? And, how did you build it over time? I always say, for me, when I first started speaking, I was nervous. I was nervous. My confidence wasn't too high, but I've learned just through playing sports that, if you just find courage, because I always say fear is a bully. And you have to figure out what drives you. I feel like some people are driven by success. Some people are driven by the fear of failure. Some people are driven by both. Me, I'm driven by the fear of failure, the fear of not trying. And so I would rather try and fail, quote unquote, fail, even though it was never failing. If you're learning, I would rather try and fail than not try and just stay the same. And so that always drove me. So when I was scared to go speak, I always tell myself, what's the worst that could happen? They don't like you. They laugh at you. Oh, well, at least you went to go do it. And I knew that repetition would build confidence. The more you do something, the more you'll be confident. So even to this day,
even if I'm speaking to myself, people, my son, like, who are you talking to, Dad? So, if you see me riding down the street, you might see me speaking. I'm always speaking. I'm always envisioning I'm talking in front of a crowd every single day. So when it actually happens, I've been there before. And I learned that from sports. I'm sure with track, your coach told you to focus on the race before you run it. My coach used to.
Cross country especially, because, that's a longer distance. Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Exactly. So you have to envision yourself there, and work. And even if it's baby steps, fall in love with progression. It's not going to happen overnight, but everything can change overnight. So if you keep being consistent, if you keep being persistent, eventually you start to close the gap between your dream and your reality. And that's what life is all about when you're an entrepreneur, is just to keep moving forward no matter what.
So did you have a team in the beginning? Because I feel like a lot of times we sometimes wonder, like, do we have to bring on, like, your sister, your cousin who believes in your dream too to help you? Were you kind of doing everything in the beginning by yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, people probably can tell from my videos, friends. My circle is small. It was small then. I've had people come and go, but at the end of the day, I've always learned how to do not everything myself, but I learned how to do a lot myself because I didn't want to depend on somebody leaving or walking away. Even if I brought somebody in to do something, I would always sit there and watch and learn what they're doing just in case, they left or something happened crazy that the ship wouldn't just sink. And so even today, my circle is small. I mean, my circle is tiny, but the smaller my circle got, the clearer my vision became. I started to do more when I had less people around me. And I'm not saying that you can't have a team. Just make sure that those visions are in line. Make sure that, there's no jealousy. Make sure there's nobody bringing you down. Make sure everybody represents those standards because you are the people you surround your life around. Somebody can take away from your character based on how they act to other people. And so, opportunity sometimes is meant for your life, but sometimes it gets scared because of what surrounds your life. So you got to make sure the people around you are those right people for you.
And I want to add to that, I also think that it's important to make sure that you're not using people as crutches. You know how sometimes you may want to hide behind the team just because you don't really want to 100% jump? Do you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying there. Yep.
Because I feel like I've known people who will say, oh, I need, I want to bring you on, or, I want to have all of us do it, when really they just want a team because they're really scared of what could happen if they fail, if they do it themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I can say don't be afraid to fail, but we all are at some point. But when you start to realize that failure can't stop you, or failure is just a part of success, and failure is just a part of growth. When you start to realize that pain builds strength, you start to almost fall in love, not with failure, but fall in love with, even if you're trying, you don't succeed, because it's going to provide a way for you to figure something out, provide a way for you to be better. And so even with me now, my mindset has changed. Like, I don't even label pain, I label it strength. I don't label failure, I label it success, because I know it takes all of that, for growth and to make me better. So change your mindset and your perspectives to different things, and it really help your life.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question about failure. Although I know that you label it success, before you came to that mindset change, when was the time that you thought you failed, and what actually happened, or what did you learn from that moment?
As far as with RehabTime, or just my life?
In life, or with RehabTime.
Yeah. Well, I thought my biggest failure was football. When that was over, I thought my life was over. I thought my life was done. I thought I was finished. I thought I had no more purpose. I didn't know what to do. I never really worked the job in my life. That was my job. I had no resume. So I thought I was over and done, not realizing that was setting me up for what I was doing today. I always say this quote that I live by is, God will allow you to go through places you don't understand just to bring you to the place where he needs you to be. And I didn't realize that at that time. But now when I look back, I understand that my life wasn't about football, but those things in football that I learned prepared me for who I am and what I do today. And so certain things have to end so better things can begin. So never count yourself out, just because they counted you out. Never count yourself out because you count yourself out. You have to still believe even when it's hard to, because that's what faith really is.
I love that. I really love that. But let's talk about your videos now, Trent, because I feel like that's like the, if someone says, who's Trent Shelton, people always would probably reference your videos that are on Facebook. What do you think is the key to why your videos are so popular and really resonate with your audience? Like, if you had to put together a secret formula for how to make videos that inspire your audience, what would that formula look like?
Number one, just being yourself. I think in anything, that's me. If you're ever around me, it's a big part of me when I'm talking about something I care about, because just to be real, I'm really quiet. I'm an introvert. I'm always observing, but when you get me talking about something I care about or I'm passionate about, that's totally me. Two is, and I want people to take this wrong, but it's not caring. And when I say not caring about people, but not caring about the results or care about what people think. Because when something's on my heart, when I do a video, I don't care if 90% of people don't like it. I'm doing it for the 10% that I know God put on my heart to touch. And I would say maybe the third thing is, picture that you're talking to someone, not to a group. When I make a video, even though it's that 10%, I still, or even 90%, whatever percentage it may be, I still picture I'm talking to one person, and I feel like that resonates with people very well. And I don't try to be too perfect. It's with my phone. I'm not saying that you can't, do whatever it is that you want to do with your videos, whatever you want to do. But with me, I use no excuses. I found my iPhone. I got my iPhone. I'm just raw, real, into the truth. And people need that, and there's an audience and there's a lane for everybody, for your gifts and for your talent. You just got to discover what people resonate with you with. And I think with me, it's worth. I think with me, it's purpose. And I think with me, it's, with faith. I feel like people get that when they listen to my videos. So I understand that, and I try to deliver that when I make them.
Which platform has been the most successful for you building your brand? Because I know you're heavy on Facebook, but you also have a strong Twitter and Instagram presence. So which one do you think really worked for you?
Facebook, for sure. That's the big one for me. I started on Twitter, but Facebook is the big one. I try to, Snapchat is really big for me also. But I try to reach every platform I can, because it's different people. That's another thing. It's people that don't use Facebook. I mean, you talk to a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old, they're not on Facebook, but they're on Snapchat, they're on YouTube. And so Facebook is definitely my main one, but I try to use all of them.
Isn't it crazy now to think that like 14-year-olds aren't on Facebook? It's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting old.
It's like Facebook is like Ice Age, man. It's
I
crazy.
know, but now Instagram stories, I feel like is kind of trying to take over Snapchat. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for people who are, people who can't get big on Snapchat but can leverage their already existing brand on Instagram. But one of the things I want to ask you is, do you capitalize on social media ads, or do you kind of just let your videos grow organically? Like, what's your strategy in that realm?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely at the beginning, when Facebook wasn't making you pay for everything, at least on my page, everything was organic. It wasn't anything I paid for, anything I boosted. Now my formula is, it depends on the video. And if I really wanted to reach people, and if I put it out there and I see that it's reaching a lot of people, I might promote it, especially my spoken word videos. I'll leave those up and promote it, because I want it to reach as many people as it can, because if Facebook analytics, I mean, they kill your reach, just off top, especially if you're posting too much, whatever it may be. So you definitely need, you don't need it, but once you start growing, I tell people all the time, you need to definitely put out a budget to be able to promote or be able to do certain things with your brand and your business. And, social media is a great avenue. Maybe it used to be, getting into a magazine or doing this or doing that. Put some money, back into your brand. And, if you want your video to reach different people, different audience, there's always that avenue to promote it or to boost your post. So I think it's necessary if you haven't.
And something else I think is also important is figuring out what you want to invest in, because I feel like some of your videos have that, like, made at home feel, but then you also have some videos that are very highly produced. So how did you figure out which ones, where you were going to invest dollars for in production?
Yeah. It's going to be a lot more videos that are highly produced. I'm still going to keep my iPhone videos because that's what people, know me for. But, at first I didn't have a budget. So that's all I had, and that just kind of stuck and people kind of related that with me. But as I'm a creative, I'm always inspired. I want to do more and I have a vision. And so I wanted to be able to, do spoken word. I couldn't rap no more. So I figured I'd do spoken word. And I wanted to bring visuals into what I was speaking. And so I linked up with a guy who's my video producer now, Shane. And, I decided I want to, put some money behind that because I want people to really get that feeling with the, with the motivational music, with the spoken word, but I want the visuals to match. And so blessed enough, I'm in a position I can be able to do that now. But I will still do both. I'm not going to just abandon, from how I started.
Yeah, and I think something else I hear there is also don't be afraid to let your brand evolve, right? Because I feel like over time you should definitely be growing. So anyone listening in who may think, all right, should I always stay the same place? It's okay to realize, all right, now I'm going to step it up, or now I have the budget to do so. Well,
yeah, I mean, and just to add on that, I mean, that's totally true. And I tell people too is that because even with myself, if you just stay the same. I don't care what it is, you get content, and contentment sometimes leads to being, I don't know, I guess the word bored is probably not the right word, but you're not hungry. You're not hungry, you're super content not to make a change and not to grow. And I just feel like if something doesn't grow, it ends up dying. And so I always challenge myself to get outside my comfort zone, because that's where change takes place. So if it's doing spoken word videos, if it's doing this or it's doing that, I want my brand to evolve, because if it doesn't, that means that I'm probably dying. I'm not, but mentally and creatively. And so you don't want that to happen to your brand. So always challenge yourself for sure.
Definitely. I mean, I was doing some research prior to having this talk with you today, and I don't remember where I wrote this note down, so I'm sorry if I can't be a really good reference here. But in something I read or something I listened to, you said that you think many people struggle with identity, right? That's something that a lot of people are walking around not really knowing who they are. How did you figure out, or how did you learn or become content or become aware of who you are? And how can others listening in really hone in on, becoming more self-aware and listening and learning themselves?
Yeah, I think that's probably the main thing that I deal with people that I talk to, especially now in today's society where everything is a competition, where it's so easy to measure your life. It's so easy to compare your life. I would tell them, if to the listeners out there, if you haven't seen my video, Pick Me Apart, that's a perfect video to understand where I'm coming from. But I started to realize that, pleasing people, trying to please people was the first step to my unhappiness. I started to realize that no matter how perfect I tried to be, no matter how good I was, there's somebody somewhere who's not going to like me. Somebody's going to talk about me. Somebody's not going to agree with me. And I started to realize that. And I say, you know what? I'm just going to be who I am. Whether you like me or not, whether you support me or not, believe in me or not, I have to be myself, because being anything else was draining. Trying to be something that I wasn't, especially I learned that in my football stages. I'm glad that I went through those things. So now I'm very comfortable with being who I am. It was so draining. And, so the people out there, you have to realize that people are going to have opinions about you anyway. And as long as you're trying to be someone else, you're cheating your life. It's nothing wrong with being inspired by people. You should be inspired by people, but you shouldn't be so inspired that you feel like you're not enough, because there's nobody in this world created like you. There's nobody with the same fingerprints as you. You're uniquely and wonderfully made. And you have to embrace that, because when you embrace your true self, I feel like you unlock, everything inside of you that you were created to be. And so, yeah, just be you.
You know what that made me think of, Trent? There's an irony to that in some way, because I feel like sometimes, at least with social media, sometimes you could get so caught up in being inspired by other people to be yourself that you don't actually do the work and stop watching the videos. Does that make any sense? I just thought about
It makes total sense. Yes, it makes total sense.
Yeah, like, after some time, you got to stop watching the videos and start becoming your own person too, because I think you can get caught up in that inspiration, what's that word? Like the intake of inspiration, and not actually step away and do the reflection and do the actual execution and change that you need to. So in that whole process of finding yourself, realize that you actually then have to actually find yourself and not think about finding yourself and not think about getting to know yourself. Okay, so I want to ask you, Trent, because I know that a lot of people, I have a lot of people who share your videos on my personal feed, and people, I feel like they love your relationship advice videos. Why do you think that, what do you think, and I don't want to just say like for intimate relationships, I think relationships can span across different categories. Right. What type of relationship do you think is the most important to cultivate? Especially if you're an entrepreneur, like what relationship do you think can make or break your brand or make or break your success?
That's a good question.
I just thought of it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Just me thinking out loud, and I'll go down the list for me. I think first and foremost for me, if you have faith and you're a believer, for me is my relationship with God. That was my first and most important relationship to build because for me, without him, I feel like I'm nothing, so that's number one for me. I think number two is the people around you, your family, whether it be your wife, your husband, your children, because if you're not happy in something that you are in every single day, it's going to affect your business. It really, really is. I mean, it's hard to be happy in the outside world if what is supposed to be your world, your household, or whatever it may be, your inner circle, if it's dysfunction in there, it's going to be very hard to operate in your business world. And I think third is your team. It's the people around you, the people that you see every single day, the people that you work with. And, fourth would be, your supporters, your customers, or whatever it may be for you. Definitely building that connection with them. And you have to be careful because, you have to be careful of giving too much of yourself and spreading yourself thin. I definitely know about that because I did that. And it kind of drove me into a place where I really have to step back. I don't even know if people know this, but I share it when I go speak. But probably about 2 or 3 years ago, I was even thinking about stepping away from RehabTime because I was spreading myself so thin. I was trying to do this and trying to do that. And, I had to step away. And so, don't give too much of yourself away that you have none of yourself for yourself, if that makes any sense.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. And I think even as creatives and people who really care, because, think about your tagline, just a guy who wants to help lives. Sometimes it may be hard to realize that although your purpose is to help others, their lives, you still have your own life that you have to make sure is also intact. And if you aren't healthy, then you won't really be able to live in your purpose,
That's exactly right. I agree.
So what's something that keeps you motivated or keeps you going when you feel like giving up? Because a lot of times in our dream driving journeys, it's not always going to be like, roses and cupcakes. There's going to be storms. There's going to be mountains. There's going to be flat tires. But for you, what's that thing that really helps keep you going, Trent?
Oh, man. My reasons, as I call them, are my whys. It's kind of the same list, but, definitely my family, for sure. My family, I mean, they're my everything. And so when I'm going through a hard time, I want to quit, even if it's not having nothing to do with RehabTime, just getting in their presence and focusing on love and giving love to them and them reciprocating it, definitely fills me up. It's important to have people around you that pour into you also, because if you're giving everything, and you have nobody to pour into you, eventually you will be empty. And the other things that definitely keep me going is the rehabbers, as I call them, my supporters. I mean, when I open up a message and somebody says your video, led me closer to God, your video stopped me from killing myself, your video made me see my worth, your video helped me start a business, like those things, I actually screenshot a lot of those messages and I put it in my phone. So anytime I go through a period of doubt, and yes, I do go through a period of doubt, people sometimes
we all do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I go through, like you said, those hard times, and I open up my phone and I look at those messages, and those messages remind me to keep going. Or open up my inbox and go write people and talk to people, or get online, honestly, and go live and just communicate and interact. and those things fuel my fire again, and those things keep me going.
And thinking about the best gift you ever gave yourself, this could be a tangible gift or this could be an intangible gift. What do you think has really been something that has truly impacted your life? Something you gave yourself?
That's a good question. I like your questions. They're very good.
Thank you.
Something I've gave myself that has truly impacted my life.
I could give you an example. Like on episode 54, episode 53, I interviewed my sister. It was like a spur of the moment interview. We were in our kitchen, and she said that one of the best gifts that she ever gave herself was taking a leadership course, because it really allowed her to reflect on, who she was and how she got to this moment. And it was something she had never done before. So that was just one thing. Like, it could be just something simple, or, maybe it could be like, I don't know. I don't want to feed words into your mouth or anything. Or just something that really changed you, or maybe a moment in your life, or just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so many. I'm trying to find like the best one. Something that just really changed me, a gift that I gave myself.
Maybe it could be a realization or something you stopped doing.
Well, I'll say this. I didn't really give myself this, but somebody gave it to me. It was a speaking engagement in Sweden, and most people will be like, "Oh, I'll definitely take that." But it's my first one out the country, and I wasn't gonna go because I felt like I wasn't worthy for it. I felt like, first of all, I was scared. I think I just watched Taken. I was like, I'm definitely not going out over there. But I talked to people around me, and I told myself, this is what you wanted. This is the opportunity. So, make a long story short, I went out there and I saw the love that I received from being out there. And it just really made me open my eyes, and really made me expand my limits, and really made me realize that this world's a lot bigger than just my zip code and my area code. And it just made me realize that what I was doing was really touching lives. I knew that, but at that moment, it made me feel that, especially when people are speaking different languages to you. So by me accepting that invitation, it changed my life forever. It made me fall in love with traveling, which, I love it, where I go protect my peace. It made me fall in love with hiking. It just brought so much value to my life that I feel like I've learned so much, just as far as moving forward, just as far as my brand, and just as far as confidence. It built my confidence to a whole nother level. It made me realize this is what I'm really, really supposed to do. It was that moment.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So let's go into our lightning round, Trent. So at this point of our interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. So this is going to stick with our whole dreams and drive metaphor. So think about that when I tell you the prompt, okay?
Okay.
Park. It's the gear shifts. It's the gear shifts in the car. It's just the gear shifts.
Right.
Okay, park.
Is it one word?
Yeah, whatever comes to mind.
Okay. Not your dreams.
Reverse.
Only if you're learning.
Neutral.
Protect your peace.
Drive.
Trust the path.
See, that wasn't too bad, right?
It was good. Your questions are really good.
I always get like different reactions. Like whenever I say park, sometimes people will say trees. I'm like, no. Think about a car. All right. So last but not least, if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So Trent, tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
One, not in any particular order. One I feel like is faith. Like I said earlier, believing the odds are beatable even when the odds say it's impossible. Believing there's going to be a door open even if that door doesn't exist. Seeing the opportunity before the opportunity even comes to you. 2, I would say commitment. A lot of people know my definition. Stay loyal to what you said you were going to do, even when that move that you said and has left you, because that move will leave you, and you got to stay loyal to it. And 3, I would definitely say consistency. Anchor your action in greatness so daily you produce nothing less than your very best. It's not about being the most talented all the time. It's about being the most consistent. When you're consistent, people know what they're going to get from you, and people know what they're going to get from you. More than likely, they're going to keep coming to you for it. So consistency pays off.
Yes, consistency. I just, for people who may be listening to this podcast for the first time, I had this idea August 2015. I launched it January 1st, and I said, hey, I'm going to put out one episode every week. If I have to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning, I will make sure that I will put out one episode a week. And I really pushed myself to do that because I knew that lack of consistency was what always hindered me right when I was about to push the next brick. It's just I'm just going to walk away now. So I really had to push myself this past year. And just by doing that, for anyone who's listening who may have been here from episode 1, so many good things have happened and so much growth and has come over this past year. So I really can really attest to that whole idea of just being consistent in yourself, because that's going to be what's really going to help you really keep putting your dreams in drive.
That's right. Amen.
So Trent, do you have any parting words for our dream drivers? And maybe you can tell them where they can find you online.
Yeah, for sure. You can find me online at Trent Shelton. Any of the social sites, just put in that, I'll pop up. On Snapchat, it's at RehabTime. And then YouTube, it's youtube.com/Trent Shelton videos. Just put in my name, Trent Shelton. I will pop up. And, at the end of the day, like I always tell you guys, it all starts with you. If you want something, you believe it's in your heart, go out and put in the effort, put in the work. Can nobody stop you but you ultimately? Yeah, people can close doors, people can doubt you, people cannot support you. But I've realized that as long as you keep moving forward, as long as you keep believing, you will get to your destination eventually. And just fall in love with the journey. It's nothing more special than the journey, the ups and downs, the rise and falls, the losses and gains. I feel like the person who can endure all that is the person that will be successful. Success is just the person that doesn't quit. And I believe we all can be that. So go be successful, go make it happen, and go make the world respect your greatness.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 61 with Trent Shelton. I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing him share his personal dream driving story as well as his keys to success. There's so many things that we have to cultivate in life, but really the relationship that we have with ourselves is truly important. So make sure no matter what you're doing, you're taking time to assess your vision, your purpose, and how you can manifest those into your lives. If you want today's show notes, as I mentioned in the intro, there's so many tweetables, so many good nuggets, so many good sound bites that Trent shared. So you can check those all out at dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 61. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on social at Dreams and Drive. Also, use the hashtag Dreams and Drive to share your own quotes, your own images. I love to go in there and see what people are posting and sharing when possible. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening to us. iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, wherever. You don't want to miss a future episode. Remember, this is the month of February, and we're going to be doing 2 episodes a week. Episode 62 is going to be a special one, so I want to make sure that you guys don't miss out on that one. And if you haven't listened to episode 59 and 60 with Courtney Futch, make sure you do that. She talks about how she got her dream job in the food industry, and then how she got fired and what happened next. So yeah, those 2 episodes are definitely must listens. All right, I'll stop talking because as you know, I could talk forever. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 62.